I know, well, in your book, American Poetry, you cite influences from Pablo Neruda, Garcia Lorca, and Antonio Machado, all of which are Spanish-speaking poets, and have had actually a pretty great impact on American poetry. How do you explain this, and why?
Well, the Spanish are the greatest poetry in this century. And the South Americans are next. In other words, poetry in the Spanish language is the greatest. Russia's pretty good. America's okay. Poetry in French is terrible. Poetry the English right stinks. So we're not so bad, but the Spanish are great. And one reason I think that the Spanish are great is because the Arabs lived there until what, 1498 or whenever that was, 1492.
Yeah.
So when in Antonio Machado, for example, that you mentioned, you can feel stuff from the Arabs flowing in there all the time. That fantastic feeling they had of delicacy in relationships between men and women. And Machado, at the end of his life, after his wife had died, he fell in love with a woman who was a married woman, and he met her in church, actually. And he wrote this wonderful poem, and it said, even though I'm a heretic and a Mason, praying with you, what devotion. That's very Arab.
Sure.
So we're just saying that to keep poetry going, you need more than just a European culture from a certain point of view. That's what it appears like. So we as a culture, American, we need much more than just Thoreau and Emerson, however good they are. That's why I've been doing a lot of translation. I'm working now on a poet from India named Ghalib. Ghalib. He's 19th century. He's the most famous poet in India now. I mean, people just love him all the time. Here's typical things he says. He gave me heaven and earth and assumed I'd be satisfied. The truth is I was too embarrassed to argue. And another one that he says is, this is a long tradition of religious poetry in India. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your promise determined my life, but it was not believable. If I'd believed it, I would have died of joy anyway. So there's incredible stuff, and every time you finish it, you laugh.
Sure.
Every time you finish one of these little shares, they're called, they're very biting and clear, and yet you laugh. So it's he is able to describe his own pain so well. He doesn't flee away from it and try to be happy. You know, he's not Marianne Williamson. Course in Miracles. So, Course in Disasters, one of his poems begins, well, you know, when I don't see anything when I look out in front of my eyes, I don't see there's any way that my life could ever end well. So that's very beautiful. And then at the end, he does a marvelous thing then, a whole bunch of beautiful spiritual feelings. And then at the end it says, you know, Ghalib, your grasp of spiritual things is really great. You could have been considered a sage if you didn't drink all the time. So we're lucky to be able to get these transfusions from other cultures.